Good evening. I guess if everybody doesn't know me, I'm not one that gets up in front of people and speaks. So this is different. So, and I was thinking about a little story I was going to tell to break the ice. And then there was this professor, and he had a chauffeur that drove him around everywhere, and he did these speeches and had lectures. And he went around to all these colleges, and one day this chauffeur told him, said, you know, I've been with you through all these colleges and these lectures. I think I could give that speech, that lecture, just as good as you can. He said, okay, so next week we'll go to this college, and we'll just trade places. So next week comes, and they get up there, and they change places, and the chauffeur becomes the professor, and the professor becomes the chauffeur. So he gets up there and he gives this lecture, and they get a standing ovation. You know, everybody just was great. And so the dean of the college come up and said, you know, we got a little bit of time left. Said, do you think we could ask some questions? So out there in the audience, this one guy raises his hand. I mean, this guy must have been a bookworm. He asked these questions. He said, yes. He said, say there was a drilling company, and they was drilling, and they drilled down 20,000 feet, and they hit some dinosaur bones. What would the composition be of those dinosaur bones? And the guy up there, the chauffeur, he said, you know, at all the colleges I've been to and all the lectures I've given, that is the most simplest question that I've ever had. He said, it's so simple, I'm going to let my chauffeur in the back of the car. So if I messed up and y'all have any questions, Kim can answer all my questions. Anyway, I was raised in a Christian home. My mom and dad, they took us to church when we were younger. And we went to a little Free Will Baptist church in it was up in 81. And we went all the time and my dad, he was a carpenter, and so he did a lot of work in the church until one time something was said, and like today, sometimes people get their feelings hurt. Well, something was said, he got hurt, and he never went back. But and I never did find out what it was. I guess I didn't need to. But my mom, she kept going. But as time went by, we kind of fell away a little bit, and was young kids, and when your dad's not going, it kind of you stray away. And but anyway, so later on, my neighbors, they invited me to go to church with them, and they had some boys that was my age, so I was running around with them, and so I went with them, and I got saved. That night, that day, it was in a class, and I can remember to this day, my heart was pounding out of my chest, and I still remember going up in front of the church, and the people coming up and hugging me and telling me how much they love me, and but then after that, you kind of get in your teenage years, and you kind of you stray away a little bit there too, and I was I never did get baptized. They didn't have a baptistry, and so it had to be baptized in the creek, and so I never was. Still, and I knew I needed to, but it was later on, until after me and Kim got married, that we found us a church, and I got baptized. My dad actually come and seen me be baptized, so that was a big thing. But we started having a family. We had Kendi, and then Natalie and Brandon, and Kendi and Natalie, they're both serving the Lord. They were saved at an early age. And our son, he said he was, but he's not going anywhere. And That's pretty tough. You know he was raised in it, but he's not doing what he needs to do. So, but anyway, so I got baptized, and we started getting involved in church, and we knew the kids need to be involved. So we started. We made sure we got them there, and they was involved in all the classes, and I think that it was a good thing. But like I said, we didn't always do everything right, but you have to keep trying, doing your best what you can do. But anyway, I've had a lot of good things about life, and a lot of trials, and I know Kenny's gonna laugh at me because I've told this story so many times that when I was in the second grade, I got run over by a car in Alma. My mom and dad had taken us to a show down there, and after the show, my dad was out waiting on me, and he said, when I come out, he said, "Don't cross the street, you'll get run over." It's kind of like today, like kids today, we wonder why they don't pay attention. Well, I didn't do it then either. Well, I ran out in front of him, and this car hit me, and my dad told me it rolled me down the street. And but God had his hand on me because all I got was scratches and bruises. I was able to go to school Monday after Saturday. That was Saturday. They took me to the hospital and nothing was wrong. So, and even though I was stubborn, I got, the Lord still had his hand on me. And I wasn't going to say it, but I guess I will. The guy that hit me was a black guy. And my dad said that's the first time he's ever seen a black guy that turned white. he seen me laying in the street. He thought he'd kill me. And back then, that was when they walked on one side of the street and you walked on the other. And then another time, I hope I have time to do all these, because I thought when you asked me this, if I had 15 minutes, I said, wow, it won't take me that long. Anyway, then when I was in the 5th grade, my cousins were they were at our house, and it was the day after Christmas. And one of my cousins was 16 years old, and we'd been deer hunting, and he had 30-30, which everybody knows that's a pretty powerful rifle. And anyway, we were sitting in the vehicle, waiting on my sister to come out and get in the vehicle. And my mom was in the driver's seat, and my cousin with the gun was next to her. And then I was waiting on my sister. And in the back seat was my 2 cousins and me, and then my aunt. Well, I wanted to sit in the seat by the door. Well, my mom told me, just scoot on over. You need, get on over. Well, anyway, my cousin up in the front seat, my mom said, "Is the gun loaded?" And he said, "No." And he cocked it and pulled the trigger. And it went off. And it went through my cousin's arm, nicked my mom in the shoulder, and hit my other cousin in the throat. And it killed him. I can see that today, right now, as vivid as it was back then. But anyway, that was another time God had his hand on me, because I was wanting to sit right there, because he was sitting up on the back of the seat looking up over the front. Just the perfect spot for him to, for it to hit him. But the thing of it was, it's like he knew something was going to happen, because he brought a suit with him, and they said there was no reason for him to have even brought a suit. It's like, you hear some people say that they know that something's going to happen. It was like he knew it. But anyway, that was another time that God had his hand on me right there. And then I had my first back surgery when I was 24. And this one is one that where God had put you in the path of people, of getting something done. I had surgery, and I was off 3 months, and they decided that they'd let me go back, but they wouldn't. My employer wouldn't let me. They said they didn't have a job for me. But the insurance lady up in the front office was doctor that did my surgery, and she told me, she said, she gave me a number. She said, here's your number to call that will help you. So I called the number, and 4 months after that, they put me back to work. And I'm saying that because God puts people in our path every day if we just watch and listen for it. And I know sometimes I'm pretty stubborn that I don't, like I said earlier, I'm probably stuttering and everything else up here, but this is my heart. And another time, the job that I got at Max Steel, almost 31 years ago, it was 2 years after I'd had back surgery. And it's pretty well unheard of that a company would even look at you after having back surgery. But we had, with Kendi, we went to childbirth classes, and we met this couple, and at that time he was the personnel manager at Ayers Furniture, and we got to know him, was friends with him, and so later on he became the personnel manager at Max Steel. So I had to go through all these interviews to get to that job, so I know God had to have his hand on that for me to even get that job. And it's been a really good job. It's taking care of us. I mean, it's been real demanding, and it takes a lot out of you. But I'm glad he gave it to me. So then I had balloon surgery. I was having a lot of trouble, and so I went to the doctor, and he just a regular doctor, and he couldn't find anything. But when he found out the history of my family, my dad died at 58. He said, "Well, I'm gonna send you to a cardiologist." So I went, and he couldn't really find anything. He did, the EKGs and all this stuff, and it didn't show up. So he said, I'm gonna do the heart cath. And so he put me in, and they did the heart cath, and they found out one of the main arteries going to the heart was 85% blocked. And so he come out, and he said what he's gonna do. And so it was a couple of days, I guess, after that. I can't remember exactly. But anyway, Kim had left to go do something, and they come in and told me right before they were going to do it that they would only get it down to like 20, 30, 40% from that 80, 85%. And they wouldn't get it all out. Well, I didn't tell Kim that. And anyway, after they did it, they come out and told her that they didn't even have to blow the balloon up all the way, and it all broke loose. Every bit of it broke loose, And, that's just another one of God's ways of saying, hey, that's what you think. This is the way it is. So, and then we had an incident that we went, that was the whole family deal here. We went to the state playoffs one year, and I had to work over, and had to work longer than I thought I'd have to. And so that was one sign probably that's saying we shouldn't have went. Well, we rushed around, and we got ready to go and had a flat tire. So we had actually a low tire. We had to go, and we had got a screw in it. So we had to get it fixed. So that even put us further behind. Well, we get down there, we go ahead and go, and we get down there, and after the ball game, we got beat after all that. And then before the game was over, it started sleeting. And so Kim was pushing me to spend the night. Well, I hadn't missed a day at work since I'd been there. And men, they get pretty stubborn about stuff. They want to, push stuff. So I said, I'm going back because I'm not missing because of this. But anyway, we started driving, and I got to Russellville. And I said, I got to stop. I pulled over. I said, I got to rest my eyes for a little bit. Well, Kim being the nice wife she is. No, she said, I'll drive. Anyway, so she was frustrated with me. Anyway, we started on, and she got down to the bridge right there. I think right there, the London exit or somewhere there. And she come up on that bridge, and she hit the slick spot, and we started spinning round and round and round all the way down that bridge. And all she could say was, "I'm going to hit that car behind us. I'm going to hit that car behind us." So she's seen bright lights. Well, we went all the way down the bridge, past the guardrail, down the embankment, never hit anything, never turned over, and we got stopped by a fence and a cedar tree. And I mean, it stopped us. And so I told her, said, all of us told her, said, there was no light, there was no vehicle behind you. And so we knew that was an angel watching over us, keeping us safe all the way down the bridge. There was a four-wheel drive truck that had turned over, and it was on its side. But all we did, we just backed, just like you'd backed out of your driveway down that hill. And we couldn't find out it was only about 15 foot from the Dardanelle River to the lake. You know, so, you know, God is good. He is good. So, then, I know it sounds like I've been through a lot, and I have, but I had open heart surgery when I was 45. And I mean, during all this time, you know, anytime I've ever had anything, I mean, there've been people praying like y'all prayed for me, and when we was going to other churches, they prayed for me. So I know that God He was in control. He's not through with me. He's doing something, you know. And but anyway, I had the open heart surgery, and the doctor, after I'd had the balloon 11 years earlier, it was that day, 11 years, he said, you know, he kept doing a nuclear stress test every year. And he would, but after he did it, you know, he'd say, well, you're good, you know, go on. Well, that year, he said, there's something just not quite right. And he took me off the test early, you know, and he said, well, you know, because he's seen something, and I take it that God knew what was there. So anyway, he said, I'm going to do a heart cath. Well, I went in, and, I asked him, I said, I've got shutdown coming up this next week. Can I wait till after that to go in and do it? And he said, sure, you know, go ahead. Well, after it worked, you know, the shutdowns they're tough. They're really tough. Anyway, it went all week, working 12 hours a day. And then on Sunday, was going to put the rest of the bottom in the furnace. Well, the guys that I had scheduled that was supposed to come in got their schedules wrong and didn't show up. So I ended up having to get in and do a lot of the work myself. And by the time I was done, I was getting sick, nauseated, and everything. So I knew something wasn't quite right. So I went in Monday, and that's when he did the heart cath. And he come out and told my wife, he said, we're checking him in the hospital, and I'm going to have you talk to a surgeon. And so on Wednesday, I had quadruple bypass. But the miracle is, 4 weeks after I had the quadruple bypass, I went back to work at half days. I mean, that was almost kind of unheard of out there. So, you know, like I said, I know God had his hand on me again then. So, and then y'all know that I had back surgery not too long ago, and it was another one of those times of being in the right path with people and getting the right doctors. I mean, I went to a doctor out in Tulsa, and it was amazing what he did. I haven't had any problems with that, and I'm probably leaving out something, but anyway. Like I said, if I do, y'all can ask. Kim will tell you. So, then I've had a heart attack, and you never forget what that's like. And I know God, like I said, God's got something for me to do. I just want to be willing to do that. And I appreciate all y'all's prayers, and keep lifting us up, because we really need it. And pray for our son that he'll he'll get his life back to where it needs to be. And I like that saying on God's Not Dead. It said, God is good all the time.